everybody. Certainly had an interesting day yesterday, and I want to thank you all, my wife and I, for inviting me to speak here today. I've been wanting to become involved with iACT for a very long time, so Dr. Deswoika, thank you so much for inviting us. Unlike many of you, I am not a scholar. I have no letters after my name. And to be honest, I'm embarrassed to say I barely completed high school. I am not an athlete. I have no interest in sports and never really have. My adolescent interests ran to science and music rather than football or track. But neither of these facts have precluded my determined pursuit, physically, academically, and spiritually, of Taekwondo. Like you, I am deeply passionate about our art. That passion was in part transmitted to me by one of the true, and notice I say one because there have been many, pioneers of Taekwondo. My late teacher, Grandmaster Rhin Richard Chun, founder of the Yonsei University Taekwondo Club. Now, I do not expect you to endure a lengthy autobiography of his great man. His life story has been covered in his own book, very enchanting book, Taekwondo Spirit and Practice Beyond Self-Defense, published by YMA of Boston. I think we have about 3 copies left outside. Rather, I have chosen to share with you some anecdotes and memories of my time with him, and I hope you will find it of interest. But first, let me introduce you to Grandmaster Chun through this very short video. Taekwondo pioneer and legend, Grandmaster Rhin Richard Chun, left this world at 3:50 p.m. on Wednesday, November 15, 2017. He is survived by his adoring wife, Kwang Hei, and loving children, Ray and Kay. He was 82 years old and lived in Tenafly, New Jersey. What began as a means to compete with the ruffians of post-war Korea evolved into a career spanning well over half a century for Grandmaster Richard Chun. He exemplified the true spirit of Taekwondo by virtue of the many trials and tribulations he was forced to overcome at a young age. Across his days, he oversaw a vast ocean of loyal students who remain inspired by his teachings. At age 11, Chun1 began his formal martial arts education under the direction of 2 highly respected teachers, Master Ki Wang Kim and Master Chung Soo-hong, at the famed Mudakwan, or Institute of Martial Virtue, in South Korea. By age 14, having excelled in his training, he received his first Dan black belt. On June 25, 1950, North Korea invaded the South, resulting in the outbreak of civil war. To protect his family, his father closed his medical practice and moved to the port city of Int'l. During the cold winter of 1951, 3 families, including the Chuns, fled south to Jeju Island in a small wooden boat, taking 3 weeks to complete the journey. Upon reaching his destination, fears of continuing his martial arts training without the supervision of his master flooded his mind. Attending high school at a rustic facility specifically designated for refugees, Richard Chun continued practicing Taekwondo alone on the majestic peak of Mount Halasan. More than once, his sense of justice and indomitable spirit were put to the test as the inhabitants of Jeju Island abused those flocking to take refuge from the war. In 1954, at age 19, he returned to Seoul. Once there, he enrolled in Yonsei University and graduated in 1957. While at university, he continued his training and served as captain of the Taekwondo Club. After graduating, he worked for Air France in the position of sales manager. Entering the United States in 1962 as a foreign student, he lived in Washington, D.C. and began studying for his master's degree in business and marketing at George Washington University. 5 months later, he decided on a move that would change the complexion of Taekwondo in the United States forever. 28 years old and in New York City, Grandmaster Chun began teaching Taekwondo at Sigward's Health Club in Midtown Manhattan. Then, in 1964, with the assistance of the late Dr. Un Kim, he officially established the Richard Chun Taekwondo Center, a school that has cultivated champions and catered to movie stars such as the Karate Kid and dancer-actor Gregory Hines. During the same time period, Grandmaster Chun, with the help and support of General James Van Fleet, created and organized the first annual Universal Taekwondo Open Championships. Between working and teaching, Richard Chun managed to earn an MBA at Long Island University and landed a job with IBM World Trade Corporation as a marketing consultant. He eventually went on to obtain a PhD, becoming a professor of health and education at Hunter College in New York City. In 1973, Grandmaster Chun was appointed head coach of the USA Taekwondo team, leading them to a second-place victory in the first World Taekwondo Championships held in Seoul. He traveled and lectured extensively at martial arts schools worldwide, as well as appearing on TV talk shows. He went on to establish the United States Taekwondo Association in 1980, an organization whose mission it is to promote the traditional and evolving art of Taekwondo. In the late 1980s, Chun1 received his 9th Dan black belt certification from Chun1, establishing him as one of the highest-ranking international master instructors in the United States. Dr. Chun played a major role in organizing Taekwondo as an event in the 1988 Olympics and served as senior international referee at subsequent championships and Olympic competitions. For his many achievements in promoting Taekwondo within the borders of the United States, he received the Presidential Award from the President of Korea. In 1999, following a training and cultural tour of Korea with members of the Chun Taekwondo Academy and a number of his senior students, he was named Special Assistant to Dr. Un Kim, President of the World Taekwondo Federation. 2012 found Chun1 returning to his original dojang by express permission from Grandmaster Shin Kang, current president of Mutokwan Taekwondo. While there, Grandmaster Chun revisited his past through photographs and memorabilia depicting him training as a young man. Grandmaster Chun tirelessly shared his knowledge of Taekwondo through the written word with 6 books to his credit. Taekwondo, the Korean martial art, and Advancing in Taekwondo, originally published by HarperCollins and reissued by YMAA of Boston, remain a standard in the martial arts community and are used as reference guides by thousands of practitioners and schools worldwide. Dr. Chun also produced a number of instructional DVDs on self-defense, sparring, and forms. He was inducted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame by Black Belt magazine in 1979, and in 2004 was inducted into the Taekwondo Times Hall of Fame by Taekwondo Times magazine. Chun1 was a member of the Lions Club International, where he served as District Governor of New York. He was appointed Ambassador of Goodwill by the Lions Club International Association for his humanitarian services worldwide, and was repeatedly honored by the President of Korea for the same. Grandmaster Richard Chun and Mrs. Chun were happily married for over 40 years. Chun1's life was a life well lived. He practiced his Taekwondo minute by minute, day by day, across the years, never yielding. he acted as an inspiration to thousands of martial artists worldwide. Taoists metaphorically claim that one can achieve immortality by sharing their knowledge. If this is so, Grandmaster Rhin Richard Chun will live on forever. Rest peacefully, our beloved master. You will be missed. That was a video we produced for Grandmaster Chun's memorial shortly after he passed. And it was taken in high regard by many of the members there. We had maybe over 200 people at my school traveling from all over the world to pay tribute and respect to him. But Grandmaster Chun's life revolved around the 5 tenets of Taekwondo, and we all know what they are. Courtesy. I remember my first phone call to him when I had established my school and looked for legitimate authorization and certification. And I spoke to his secretary, Elena, at the time, and I was very timid about it. And I said, Elena, nice to speak to you. Do you think that you can have Grandmaster Chun call me, and may I call him? Oh, please hold on. He's here right now. Picks up the phone. Hello? Didn't know what to say. I was unprepared, you know. Hello, dog. How are you? And it was, from then on, it was a glorious relationship, and he was always so courteous. He had a talent, and many of you may have met him, to make someone feel like it was the only person in the world who he took an interest in. There are people who he had never even met. Alberto, I think you're one of them, mentioned Grandmaster Chun. You would call him and ask him for advice, and he would go on for an hour or so and give it to you and make it a life-changing experience, and you would remember it. And I bump into people all over the world who say, oh, I never met Grandmaster Chun, but he did this, he picked up the phone, and he spoke to me. And I saw that particularly at the memorial we had, when speaker after speaker got up and spoke about their personal experiences with him, experienced students and also strangers. And each of us had our own stories. And when you felt, oh, I'm very special and close to him, next person got up and gave you the impression that maybe they were even closer, you know. So that was the kind of person he was. This was one of my favorite pictures. This is when I tested for my 5th Dan with him, and several of the students were there. This was the memorial we had, not a memorial for him, but this is before he passed away. This was 2 years before he passed away. There was 300 students there, and this was a special celebration of the USDA. It was the last time we did something like this together. It was a very enjoyable evening. Now, many of you I've spoken to earlier mentioned this book that you have. I saw a couple of copies here last night. And I have to tell you an interesting story about this. This was originally published by HarperCollins, one of the big publishers, general publishers, not just martial arts. And they gave him an advance. They thought it was interesting enough. And they went back to him and they said, well, this Taekwondo stuff, no one knows what it is. So, if you're going to publish this book, we need to call it Korean Karate, or in their term, Korean Karate, you know. And he and Mrs. Chun both said, oh, Korean Karate, no good. Oh yeah, you have to understand, we'll have to take back the advance, Okay, take it back, And he stood by Taekwondo. I thought that was amazing. That's true integrity. And when I opened up my most recent school, we have a new facility. There was a sign out front and showing different businesses there. And I went to him before he passed away. I said, Kwanjin, should I say martial arts, or should I say Taekwondo? Okay, sir, thank you. Okay. And on that side, of course, is Taekwondo. That was integrity. That's what I call integrity. And also, you saw this photo earlier of Jeju Island. How many of you have been to Jeju Island? Beautiful, isn't it? We've been there several times with Grandmaster Chun in our own school, too. And, during the Korean conflict, he had to flee there with his family. And
talk about perseverance. I mean, he had to train himself, and he talks about this in his autobiography, on Mount Hallasan, which is one of the highest peaks in Jeju in Korea in general, South Korea. And I can just imagine him doing that. I didn't even know what level forms he was practicing, but it was enough to keep him going. And he also acted as a protector of some of the younger refugees at the school that he was going to. He stood up for justice. And that took a lot of courage at that point. And then, of course, this is just a photo of he and I from the book, but many times people would come to his school and challenge him. And one time in particular, a young man strapping big fellow came into his school and said, you Chun? And he said, yeah. He goes, I went to fight you. I went to fight you. I want to see how good you are. And Grandmaster Chun said, oh, fight me. And he said, okay, just sit down here until I'm finished with class and you can fight me. So Grandmaster Chun did a very good class. He was young. He did a very strong class, and very good technique. And he came back in the room and the man was gone. So, he had a lot of self-control when it came to that type of thing. How many of you have been to this institute? You know what that is. You know what those letters are, right? This is, to me personally, and I was speaking to Mr. Borges Master Borges about this last night, we both agreed, the Kukiwan, the National Gymnasium is, to me, like the Vatican is to Christianity. To me, it's a very sacred place. When I go, I can feel the energy of it when I step on the floor. So Grandmaster Chun was here at the Kukiwan. He came with us during one of our trips. We've been there 9 times, and we train there. We don't just go and visit, we train there when we go on our Korean pilgrimages. And if you've been there, you know that, this is a picture I took of an instructor meeting. Underneath these chairs, there's hallways, corridors, And it's an older building. It was built in 1972. And in fact, if I'm not incorrect, and Grandmaster Kim would know, there's talk about building a new Kukiwan, leaving this as a national heritage, because there's a lot of asbestos and no heating or cooling, But still, I feel very strongly about it. And we're walking around these corridors, and our group is getting ready to change, to put our dobaks on. And it's very narrow, and then we come to this one door, and the door opens, and there's a stairway, a metal stairway, going down and then taking a hard left, and there's all these locker rooms, in the men's locker rooms, So I was walking before Grandmaster Chun, I was carrying his briefcase, and he was right behind me. And all the other students had already gone down and were changing. And we're walking down the stairs, and I turn around, and I see him slip. And he's in an immaculate dresser. I mean, 3-piece suit, beautiful blue 3-piece suit. Boom, falls right on his back, middle of the spine on the stair. And he was probably in his mid-70s at this point, right? It was slow motion. It's like something happening in slow motion. And I see the grimace on his face, All of us panicked. And one of our group was a medic, and he comes running over, and we lift him up, and we're thinking he's not going to be walking. And he gets up, go train, don't wait for me, go train, So we let the medic take him to a first aid room. We all go out onto the floor. Grandmaster Park at that time was training us. 20 minutes later comes walking Grandmaster Chun. In pain. And for the remainder of the trip, he stayed at the hotel. But that's indomitable spirit. I mean, getting up, knowing that your students are counting on you to be present at least, spending the time there at the Kukiwan with us. There are many other stories I can tell you about Grandmaster Chun. One time at lunch, he was talking about a visit to the dentist. And the dentist wanted to do a particular procedure, and he said, no, you can't do it, I'm not going to. The dentist said, you a martial artist? And he says, yes, and he explained, and he says, Doug, we're all dictators. All of us are dictators in our schools, And I actually wrote an article about that. I thought it was pretty interesting. Another time, and I'll leave it at that for now, we were talking on the bus going down to Gyeongju, and We had a lot of time to talk about philosophy and history of Korea, you know. We were passing by areas where great battles took place, and I thought about the blood soaked into the earth from the fratricide of that war, you know. And I asked Grandmaster Chun, I said, sir, you know, I have a lot of adult students in my school. We have maybe 70% adults. How do I treat them with the same consistency, hold them to the same standards that I would the younger students, you know? He says, Doug, it's a matter of purpose. Have them practice with purpose. Purpose, how do you find that, sir? Kiap, loud kiaps. When they do their forms, strong forms. If they have to do jump kicks, don't make them jump. If they have to do turning kicks, make sure they turn slow. And when they do Hoshin Sul techniques, the wrist locks, the arm grabs, make sure they tap out, you know. But you hold them to their spirit. As Grandmaster Kim pushes out, talks about in Taekwondo spirit, you know. So, you know, I tell you that it's obvious from this group, we all share the same spirit of Taekwondo. Martial arts are just that, martial arts. And Grandmaster Chun's motto was never give up. And my students and I hold to that. From the depths of the Tai Chi Chun, we unearth a pearl of wisdom I want to read to you. The master gives himself up to whatever the moment brings. He knows that he is going to die and has nothing left to hold on to. No illusions in his mind, no resistances in his body. He doesn't think about his actions. They flow from the core of his being. He holds nothing back from his life. Therefore, he is ready for death as a man is ready for sleep after a good day's work. Chun1's life was a life well lived. He practiced his Taekwondo minute by minute, day after day, across the decades, never yielding. He acted as an inspiration to thousands of martial artists worldwide through his literary skills and his actions. Taoists metaphorically claim that one can achieve immortality by sharing their wisdom. If this is so, Grandmaster Chun, Rhin Richard Chun, will live on forever. Thank you, everybody. I'll be glad to
So if you can just discuss in your groups a moment, and then maybe someone has a question. We've got about